Hello, I'm going to describe today a classic case study of applying statistical modeling to an ecological problem. So, title of my lecture is Population Growth Model and Harvesting Strategy for the Frog Rana tigrina. The frogs is a delicacy worldwide. Mainly the frog legs are expensive exotic food for the rich. About 200 million frogs are traded annually worldwide to satisfy the demand for this delicacy. So, we are going to obtain here the optimum harvesting policy for the frog legs or frogs from India. This is an old study that I carried out in my PhD dissertation under the guidance of Professor A.P. Gore. And this is a remarkable example of statistical modeling in ecological studies. Before going into the proper problem, I would like to uh, spend a little bit on the concept of maximum sustainable yield. So, in fisheries or in any ecological catch, the maximum sustainable yield is the yield that can be obtained without causing the population to decline, achieved by keeping the population at the point where it grows fastest. So it is like our blood donation. When a person donates blood, then a proper amount is taken from that person's blood, and that doesn't harm that uh, person, so to say, so that because nature takes care of replenishing the blood. So only the interest is to be taken off from the FD, so to say, keeping the principle intact. So that is called as sustainability. So harvesting at MSY means removing only the excess individuals the population produces, allowing it to replenish itself indefinitely. Another concept that is a favorite in ecology is called as density dependence. If the density of the population is low, then there is little addition to the population because there are few organisms to give birth. At high densities, though there is intense competition for resources, the growth rate is again low because the death rate is high. So, in between these two extremes, the population represents the population growth rate rises to a maximum value. So this maximum point represents the maximum number of individuals that we saw in MSY. Density dependence in ecology refers to processes where population growth rates are regulated by population density. So it is not a fixed thing. It is in response to the total amount or total organisms in the population, the nature responds, that is called as density dependence. Now let us come to the problem that we are talking about. So, as I mentioned just now, that frog leg is a delicacy worldwide. The importers are America, European Union, and Japan, whereas the exporters are India, Indonesia, Bangladesh. India entered the trade in 1959, exporting 94 tons of frog legs, valued at rupees 0.47 million rupees. So, we had captured this data on the frozen frog legs exported in tons from 1963 onwards up to 1983 and the respective foreign exchange earned in lakhs of rupees. So you will see in these graphs also that the export quantity is going on increasing as well the foreign exchange earned. So actually, there should not be any problem in this trade because we are earning the foreign exchange. But from the ecological perspective, this issue is was a burning issue that time Though currently the frog leg export is completely banned from India. Now, points in favor of the trade uh, where the foreign exchange earned and there was employment because these poor villagers used to catch these frogs from paddy fields. The frogs are their essential habitats are paddy fields, and from there these frogs are collected. Now the points against the trade are: number one, cruelty to animals; number two, sustainability of frog harvest, because if you are taking away these frogs from their population, the frog population will decline, and frog is considered to be a best friend of a farmer, and therefore it will not consume those insects and pests, and therefore you will get a reduced paddy yield and increased use of pesticide. So this is an adverse impact on the environment. So vis-a-vis this in favor, vis-a-vis this against the trade, one has to attempt a proper balance. If it is possible to harvest frogs on the sustainable basis, then why not? Because we are earning the foreign exchange. First World Conference on Trade in Frog Legs was held in Kolkata 1986 with no conclusion because there were no data on this particular studies. So need of detailed studies was felt, and such studies with statistical modeling and data collection was recommended in that conference. So our this research, present research attempts precisely this. So question is, can we export frog legs on sustainable basis and earn foreign exchange as well? We export fish, we export meat, then why not export frog legs? This will earn foreign exchange to the country and livelihood for poor farmers as frog collectors. Now, which frog? We had data on only this frog, Rana tigrina, some data that is also known as Indian bullfrog. As you may be knowing that a frog is an amphibian and then it can live on ground as well as in waters. Now, if you look at the life cycle of frog, then uh, it is spanning four stages: egg, larva, tadpole, and adult frog. This is the frog delicacy. It looks like this. Now, there are three main aspects of the entire issue. The first and foremost question is exactly how many frogs are there per unit area? That means, what is the frog density in the paddy fields? Number two, assert the sustainability of foreign of the frog population. How it increases in the absence of harvesting. So this is a kind of MSY question. And number three, understanding the population dynamics of frog population and obtaining harvesting policy. So from some earlier studies, we had some results. So this was due to Pandian and Mathavan that these different states had different mean number of frogs per hectare. So if you look at this, the Maharashtra is having 86 as the estimate. There were some other estimates as well. I am not going into the details of everything because it's a big uh, study. So other data with what we had from Maharashtra is that month-wise collection of frogs from three sites in Maharashtra. Harvestable frogs that is about above 100 grams and above. So these are known as harvestable frogs. Now Raigad district, the Pune district, and again Raigad district. So there were three locations from which these studies were carried out. So how do they in ecological populations, how do they carry out such studies of density estimation? They some sample of some number of frogs, then they mark it by some way or the other, and then they release those frogs into the paddy yields and again capture. So this is known as capture recapture experiments. And then when you capture it second times, you will see some marked frogs, some unmarked frogs, third time some marked frogs and some unmarked frogs, and so on. So depending upon the proportion of unmarked and marked frogs, one can estimate the total population density in that particular area. So this is a standard method adopted in ecological studies, marked capture recapture method they call it. So such data were available, and then we took the data from this, and then we devised our own model, the capture recapture model, with some parameter E of fleeing. What happens, that what is the marking procedure for a frog? When the frog is caught, then they cut its one toe, and then they release that frog, so that whenever the next time you get the same frog, then you come to know that it was caught earlier in the earlier instance. So therefore many ecologists say that if such a traumatic experience that animal experiences, then it tries to flee that from that particular study area. So there is migration from that area, and then we have to consider that into our model. So we considered that probability E, which is of emigrating from that area, etc. And then we devised these whatever model, and then came out with this kind of densities, our estimations of E, the probability of fleeing from that site. So it looks like it's very quite reasonably higher, and the density per hectare is 107, 154, and 92. So from these three different locations, we are getting the estimate around 100. So we decided to have our estimate of frog density as a ballpark estimate of 100 harvestable frogs. That is, the frog which is greater than 100 gram per hectare paddy fields. So the first question we have answered like this. Now, the second question we have to answer about the optimum harvesting policy. For that, we are taking the use of Leslie matrix models in ecology. So we need many things in order to use that particular setup. So this is age in years. Generally, a frog lives up to average age is called as 8 plus or 9, 10 years. So we have gone up to that, and then the weight of that frog in grams is on this y-axis, and then we have for the fecundity estimates. A Leslie matrix needs fecundity estimates, that means the clutch size, number of offsprings that a particular female frog produces. So that is called as clutch size. And then that depends upon the weight of the female, and weight depends on the age of the female. So all these things are interlinked. So we did some kind of modeling here. The logistic curve was fitted, etc., etc., and then we came up with some estimates of fecundities, and then we tried to use the Leslie matrix models. Now, what is a Leslie matrix model? So here we are saying that M be the Leslie matrix giving fecundity and survival values for different age classes, and theta is the matrix of left behind. So 1 minus theta becomes the capture. Okay. So C is the biomass and V is the stable structure, age distribution. So the whatever is to be maximized, the maximum yield or maximum biomass is nothing but C dash I minus theta mv, which is to be maximized by choosing theta such that mv minus v is greater than or equal to 0. That means, first of all, the population should be increasing. Then only it is possible to harvest something out of it. If not, then there is no question of harvesting. So this condition, and then after harvesting, it should stabilize. Means after harvesting that particular portion, so whatever remains is theta mv, and that should be equal to v, the previous structure. So that means it ensures stability, it ensures sustainability. So this approach is adopted, and this was the Leslie matrix we considered. These are the clutch sizes. The first is of tadpole, the first 2 3 months, egg, larva, and tadpole, all these are uh, taken care of in the first year itself. So the first class is of tadpoles, and then all these are the clutch sizes of the females of different age: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 plus. So accordingly, we decided, and then these are the survival probabilities from one class to the next class, as mentioned in the Leslie matrix theory. So those also we attempted to obtain, and then we put forth this problem into the problem of maximization. The previous problem was the Leslie matrix problem, was of linear type, but we had to take into consideration the density dependence of it. So it becomes more complicated, and therefore it becomes the problem is to be maximized for phi e p dat p hat e, etc. Again, theoretical details are not important at this point of time. And then this we came up with these different strategies. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the different strategies that we could get. And these are the yield of frogs when the harvest was restricted to certain weight groups: greater than 100 gram, greater than 150 grams, greater than 200 grams, etc. Now, in simple words, I can tell you that these are the lines which are related to if you harvest the frogs which are greater than 300 grams. That means this four, then 5, they're greater than 400 grams, and greater than 500 grams. So only if a frog, if it is greater than half a kg, then you harvest it. Otherwise, you release that frog into the paddy fields. So this was the yield. So you will see that the yield is very low if if you resort to only larger frogs harvesting. Whereas if you resort to the 150, 200 kind of things, that means these 2 3 2 3, then the population is oscillating, the yield is oscillating, you will not get constant yield all the time. Okay, so if you look at the number one graph, this graph, it oscillates initially like this, and then it stabilizes, and it stabilizes at some point at 11.2 or something that I remember. So this is 11.2 kg per hectare. You can get that particular harvest, and this is nothing but it is sustainable. That is the main point we want. And this was the optimum harvesting policy. Actually, it was suboptimal. The optimal policy given by this solving this kind of programming optimization problem was slightly complicated. So we chose to this suboptimum policy because which was practicable in the in applying it into the fields. So, what is the our recommendation? Harvesting frogs above 100 grams is a sustainable policy, which is a suboptimal policy. It is chosen due to its practicability. It is MSY in the sense that nature will take care of producing more frogs till this point. It will ensure that the population of frogs would not decline. And if frogs weighing less than 100 grams are caught, then there would be detrimental effect on the frog population. The frogs population will start dwindling. On the other hand, if frogs far larger than 100 grams are captured, then the full potential of harvest would not be utilized, resulting into lesser foreign exchange and lesser livelihood for the frog collectors. So it is wise one has to go in for this optimum policy, that no problem of harvesting frogs or catching frogs which are weighing beyond 100 grams. You can go ahead with that particular policy. That was our recommendation. Now, how much will be the foreign exchange earned? This foreign exchange earned is written here, but no point in talking about is this now because that time the dollar was 18 rupees. So, effect of frog export, that was the third major issue which ecologists were bothered of. That what will happen to the insects if you harvest frogs? then the insects will multiply exponentially, and that will be detrimental to the paddy fields. You will get reduced yield, or you will have to sprinkle more and more insecticides or pesticides on those paddy fields. So we tried to answer this question as well. We consider two population structures. One considered as stationary with no harvesting, means as it is, don't do anything. And secondly, the policy that we have recommended. Now, there was in one of the reports, Abdul Ali was the great naturalist. He was the disciple of Salim Ali. So he had come up with several data on this and had a quantitative aptitude, and then he had come up with this kind of matrix or this kind of data, which was very useful to us. What is it about? It talks about average daily intake of three kinds of food in grams by frogs. So, how much does a 80-gram frog eat? It eats 1.0720 gram of crabs, 1.6960 of insects, 1.120 of insect larvae, and so on and so forth. So total intake is this. So for each population structure, the daily consumption of the three kinds of food is given in this table. So we came up with our policy. What happens? So if there is no harvesting, then the crabs consumed are 1.12 kg for our population structure that we talked about. Insect is 0.18, insect larva 0.079, total is 1.38. When we adopt this policy, suboptimal harvesting policy, then the crabs intake by the frogs is 0.79, insect is 0.25, insect larva is 0.14, and total is 1.18. So you see that insects and insect larva, that consumption by frogs is more, in fact, if you adopt this harvesting policy. Only thing is that this crabs intake lowers down if the policy is adopted. In simple arithmetic or in simple words, the biomass of insects and insect larvae consumed actually increased and rather significantly after harvesting. Even though harvesting eliminates larger frogs, it promotes the survival of smaller ones. And it is the smaller frogs that eat more insects or insect larvae. Therefore, harvesting of frogs reduces rather than increases the population of insects, and in this respect has no adverse effect on the paddy crop. On the other hand, the consumption of crabs seems to decline after frog harvesting, and the implication of this effect need to be studied. So this was our observation. Only thing, and the cautionary thing was that all this study was based upon the scanty data available that time. We did not do any field experiments, but if there would have been some field experiments of if suppose the ban was lifted after that, then there was some chance of taking that kind of data and again rebuilding the models, etc. So the point here is